Welcome to the Energizing America podcast, where we talk all things energy and why we need energy in our business, in our lives, and in our communities, and so on. We're excited to sit down with Reilly Sasse, Red River Welding. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to
Red
be
River
here.
Welding, right?
Just Red River.
Just Red River.
Yep.
And what's the motto?
Fire inside.
I love the motto.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I especially like the American tinge that you have, because obviously we're all about safely energizing America. So, Reilly, you're from Wyoming.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about Red River. What do you guys do?
Pressure vessels. That's our big thing. We started out as rig welders, just building pads in North Dakota. And we wanted to have an oil company or a fabrication company. It was our big thing, is we didn't want to travel. We're all family guys. And we wanted to slowly move it to where it was one place, ship our product, and so it over the years it just evolved into pressure vessels, and that's our main focus now. We'll do skids and I&E and everything associated with that pressure vessel, but it all starts with the pressure vessel. And so 72 inch and under is our focal point.
So you're welding these pressure vessels in Gillette, Wyoming, or
Yep.
where?
We do them all in Gillette, and we ship to Florida, Texas, North Dakota, Wyoming, all over.
Why to Florida? What goes on in Florida that needs vessels?
So there's a company we work with out of Florida. They do desalinization. Did I tell you about that?
No.
It's cool. So they're the first company. There's been a lot of companies over the years trying to figure out how to handle this saltwater, because the saltwater is the oil company's biggest cost. When you look at the cost of a barrel of oil to produce it, just dealing with that saltwater is the most expensive cost. And so, but this is the first company that I've seen anyway that's actually doing it big time. Like, they can take the crappiest saltwater you can imagine and turn it into San Pellegrino quality drinking water at the rate of 7,500 barrels a day.
Really?
Yeah, and it was
by using a vessel of some sort?
Yeah, well, so the stuff we do for them, a lot of it isn't technically pressure vessels. It's tanks and cyclones, and there's some piping that goes with it, but it's all really high-grade 2205 duplex stainless, and it's super technical. It's been a fun project, because they're like the guys that are on their team, a lot of them came from car design. So when we get their plans, they're like,
Do they got wheels on them and stuff?
well, they just think about things different, and so
Yeah.
It's interesting how they draw their plans. But they showed up out of the blue. It was the craziest thing. It was like 2019, and the oil market was falling apart. No, 2020, somewhere in there. And I got the form submission from our website.
Are you
Not
serious?
kidding you. I thought it was spam. And I'm looking at this, and these dudes wanting like some stainless stuff. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll call the guy. So I called him, and it was just funny how it started, because they were just starting to had all this investment money, and they were like, man, we don't really know about these steels. And they were and it turned into a big deal. I mean, we've done a ton of work with them, and we've worked with them for, I suppose it's around 2 years now. And they got their first full scale, it's technically a prototype, but they've got it sold. They shipped it to Pennsylvania, and it's in the first 1,000 hours of operation right now.
And if this thing works, I just had lunch with a group of folks down in Carlsbad, New Mexico last week. And to your point, especially in the Permian Basin, which that's where all the capital is getting
Yep.
deployed right now,
Yep.
that is a huge topic.
It's massive, because I believe that they will eventually ban injection wells. I mean, they've done it in Pennsylvania, and with the earthquakes and stuff, and it's just becoming more and more of a thing, even in Texas. So you're hearing about it, where they're I think they're eventually going to shut down injection wells, and we're going to have to figure out how to deal with salt water some other way.
So when they pull this out, you're saying they can treat how many a day? How many
7,500 barrels a day with this one skid. But their range is, I think they can go up to 12,000 with this same design.
Really?
They just upsize some of the components. But it comes off this skid in the form of steam. And if you want the water, you could just put a condenser on there, condense it back into water. It's phenomenal. It's a crazy deal.
Put it into a tank and then truck it out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or eventually put it in a pipeline and send it to a municipality to use.
Yeah, you totally could. What I see is like these really dry areas like Texas and Wyoming. I think the farmers and ranchers would love it. They'd actually have water.
Yeah, well, what about
because water's a commodity for a cattle producer,
So, and you think about somewhere like Wyoming, where you guys are in the midst of, what did you call it, a severe drought?
Yeah.
Imagine if at the same time that you're pulling out this awesome natural resource that we all need, you can take the byproduct and do something really cool with it.
Yeah.
Because
pretty cool.
You know that they wouldn't, otherwise, I don't think that technology would have ever come up if somebody hadn't pulled salt water out.
Right.
While they were looking for oil, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
by solving the energy needs of the country, we might be poking into a solution for some of the water needs.
Helping some water needs. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's really
Because,
cool.
7,500 barrels a day is just one little, if you could imagine the entire oil industry on a program, it would just be game changing.
Well, a lot of these wells, when they're first drilled, they're pulling out 3,000 barrels a day of oil equivalent, right? And down in New Mexico, sometimes you'll get 60 to 80% of that could be water.
Can be water, yeah.
That's some serious byproduct.
A lot of people don't realize that. There's a lot of times more water than oil when it comes up out of the well.
Yeah. Is that the same in Wyoming? I haven't been in that shale play much. Do you
I
know?
don't remember.
Okay. Because I know North Dakota's got a really nice cut. They actually have a really good cut of oil to water compared to the New Mexico. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks wonder, how is North Dakota even competitive with all the infrastructure needs and the shipping costs, the logistics to get the oil out of North Dakota is a huge cost.
And that's the main reason, huh?
Yeah, well, they get a better cut. In fact, if you ever listen in on some of the CEOs do their quarterly presentations, there's a couple of active investors on these calls that always ask the question, and I love it because I love North Dakota. I love New Mexico too. We have operation in both, so I'm neutral, right? Mm-hmm. But I kind of have a love for North Dakota more just simply because that's where we started and that's my birthplace and whatever, right?
Yeah,
you can go on and on. All kinds of excuses if you know where you make your money. Regardless, they will push against the CEO and say, wait a second, you're investing all this money in the Permian, but we can tell your investment return, it's all in the Bakken. What's going on? Why aren't you deploying that capital in the Bakken? And we're starting to see that conversation shift now. I think there's 38 drill rigs in North Dakota yesterday compared to 23, a few months ago. So definitely improving, but they can literally get sometimes 80%, especially on initial production, they get 80% oil compared to 20% cut on the tier 1 acreage in North Dakota. So we know North Dakota, the only problem there is there's only so much acreage, right? Permian is 8 times the size, so it's a funner spot to deploy capital. Mm-hmm. And I suppose more efficient when you take that all into account. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why North Dakota didn't die during the, what do you call it, Rona thing,
The Rona deal, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you wouldn't have been dealing with the Rona deal and that email came in on a submission form on your website, do you think you would have just ignored it because you got enough stuff to do?
I've wondered, man. I don't know. That was just funny how that came about. Yeah. And now we've got a great relationship with them and they're growing and they've got the hype built in Saudi Arabia and in the U.S.
Recovery? Are you participating? Is business better today than it was during Rona?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, we're seeing more RFPs than we've ever seen. Yeah. It's crazy.
And where are the RFPs coming from? Your old clients, new clients? Are clients more interested in looking around?
Yep, both. I just always have to laugh because the oil industry is so human. And that's why I love it, is they're just real people. And most of the people you meet with started on the tools. I would say 90% of them. And so at the core, they're blue collar people, and I love them, And but yeah, they're so it's funny in the oil industry because you'll go from nobody will talk to you when the oil's down, and then everybody wants to talk to you when it's good,
Yeah, where's all those people? Remember, John, you told me I should fire all of them a year ago or 2 years ago?
Right. Yeah. But no, it's kind of a mix of both. It's a lot of our old clients. We've never lost a client, so we have all the same people, and we've got some new ones now, and we've been in business long enough now to where It actually surprised me because, like when you run your own business, you always see the underbelly of your business. And I think it's easy to inherently kind of undersell yourself because you know all the good and the bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you tend to know more about the bad than the good because
you're dealing with
problems.
It. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of surprised me. Like a few new clients that we've got now, I'd show up and thinking that, I got to prove myself and tell them all about who we are. And I get in there and like, no, we know who you guys are. Yeah, we want you to do our work. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, so we've been, at it long enough that like they already know about us and they've kind of worked indirectly with us. And, the industry's small in that way where people change positions. You got the musical chairs, and I'll go to a new company and meet somebody that I've worked with at a different company. It's like, hey, how you doing? So yeah, that's cool. So there's a lot of that going on too, but I've really noticed that they are, traditionally it seems like the oil industry could always just solve problems with money in the old days where it was up and down, and when it was high, they would just throw money at things and yell louder and it would get done. And now, with the new dynamics we're dealing with supply chain problems and all the things, the environmental and all this stuff, I've seen a shift where they're focusing more on the relationships. They're actually looking at their vendors. What relationships do these vendors have? Because it's becoming about dependability. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know you guys see it probably worse than we do just because there's a lot of electrical components that you can't get. Like right. they're tough, And so it's cool because it's putting us in a position now to where, you know how the old thing in business is you're always trying to sell on value. You're always trying to make that difference where I'm bringing value here, and sometimes customers won't see it and sometimes they will. Well, now they're focused on that. So
and money doesn't solve.
Yeah, they've realized that the money just doesn't solve it. Like, no, we got to dig deeper. We got to figure out, we got to plan ahead, and we have to, really look at these supply chains. Like, where's this stuff coming from, and how is this going to actually work and play out, and what's the timing of it all, and all that. And like, it's cool because that's what we want to do.
That's what all the service providers have been begging for to happen.
Exactly.
So we can actually plan our businesses.
Yep.
And it turns out, so the greedy gas station owners, which we blame the oil producers. I read an article the other day from Elizabeth Warren, whatever her name was, that Warren lady. She's screeching at the oil producers. You got to get to work. You got to get the oil out of the ground. And I just had to laugh at myself thinking like, how foolish are these folks? I don't know if they've tried to get a piece of steel, get an electrical component, but I don't care how much money the oil executive can actually make. If you can't get the product, it's just you can't get the supply. It doesn't work.
Right.
So you are stuck with the high prices. We have found in our business, when we went to go recover, we were faced with that same issue. I told our team, there's one difference between this oil field recovery and every other one I've been through, which we've been through a few of them. Because if you're in the oil industry for more than 6 months, you'll be through a recovery and a downfall, right? That's going to happen.
Yep.
The one thing this one is not going to solve is money. Previously, if we needed more people because our producers needed more help, I could throw money at the problem.
Yep.
I could go find trucks. I could go find people. Both were available. Yep. You just had to, if you were comfortable paying.
You had to pay for it, and you could get them.
You could get them.
Yep.
Now, I mean, I don't know. Have you tried to buy?
Doesn't work.
You guys sold the truck. I almost bought it from you sight unseen because I saw it on one of your social media accounts.
Yeah.
Because I suppose what a capital generating asset now. Like, since when do vehicles actually appreciate, right?
Right.
That is kind of a cool thing because once I realized that in our business, it was like, hey, wait a second. If I'm dealing with this at my little lowly level of running a few guys trying to do some cool things, certainly my clients are running into the same exact issue. And so now we get to actually go sell on all of these core values that we've believed in and that we're trying to push through. That's where we got to focus our attention. And it turns out that that's actually what our clients want to hear. Whereas going back to your point, 2 years ago, they didn't give a flying flute. How quickly can you get it done and what do I got to pay for it?
Yep. That's what it was all about. Yeah.
Totally different than nowadays that who do you got employed? How long have they worked for you? Where are you getting your supply? What kind of alternatives do you have?
Yep.
You know, And you have to be honest.
Yep.
That can be tough, right?
Yep.
We're doing a large project right now, a compressor station upgrade over in Wisconsin. And when we were on the phone call about the project, the client asked, what's your biggest challenge beyond material? Or what do you see as a big challenge to meet this schedule? And I said, well, beyond supply chain issues, I got to be honest, it's labor. If I don't get awarded this project right now, I got to allocate that labor somewhere. So I'm not threatening.
Yep.
I'm just stating if I only have a limited amount of resources. 2 years ago, I could have went and found more. I can't do that anymore.
Yep.
So if you want this project done on time, on schedule, you have some work to do to award it on time, on schedule, so that we can adequately plan.
Yep.
And that is a huge, huge shift.
Yep. Yep. And I'm seeing it with these people too, of they're setting their drilling plans and they're sticking to them. And they're ordering all their equipment 2 quarters in advance. It's just amazing. I love it.
Not
just
only
gives us all a chance to figure it out and make sure that we can deliver, and
and they get a better product.
Yep.
And oftentimes at a better price point, because if you know that you have this many widgets to build, you can go work with your suppliers, right?
Yep.
And you can make sure that you're getting the right pricing
Yep.
for those widgets compared to paying. I mean, I don't know if you've had to ship anything. Obviously you have.
Oh yeah, we ship a lot of stuff.
What
Yep.
do you do? Do you source it out?
Both. Yeah.
You do some of it yourself?
We do some in-house shipping and some we outsource. So.
And I would imagine if you're going to the Dakotas from Gillette, you're talking a 6-hour drive. You can probably haul it over there.
About 6 hours. Yeah.
Okay. So we do a lot of the same thing, right? If we're bringing stuff out to North Dakota, we can usually, if it's coming out of our Minnesota office, you can do it internally and kind of accomplish a couple things with that one delivery.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about doing it in-house, is you can usually hit a few birds with the same stone,
Yeah.
So that kind of helps, but yeah.
But I'm seeing the shipping charges just outlandishly and outrageously on like every, and it drives me nuts because, I had a meeting with someone this morning. They told me that they're so tight that their boots squeak when they walk. And I was like, man, that's my problem, I get these invoices from our supply houses. Shipping charges on every single invoice, relentless, $11, $14, $53, $84. And I so desperately want to pick up the phone, call them, and have a little meet with Judy with them. But the problem is, what's my alternative? The only thing I got to do is figure out how to pass that cost along and become another greedy oil executive.
That's all
and
you
make
can
the
do.
American people suffer
Yep.
at the gas pump.
Yeah, because truckers are in short supply too. And then they add this new regulation. You got to go to school for 12 weeks in order to get your CDL now. Like, it's insane. I went and got mine because I was like, I don't know if I'll ever need a CDL, but I'm going to go get it before I have to do this $12,000 schooling.
Isn't that a crazy regulation?
Yeah.
Right after COVID,
Yeah.
right after Corona and all the supply chain issues, the latest rule, I think that it just came into effect, last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
maybe?
it was real recent. Yeah.
I mean, some
right
of
when
this
we're
stuff,
at the lowest point of our shipping problems.
Yeah.
Like,
here's a
crazy.
solution, guys. We're going to make you go to more school to get the CDL. Thank you. That's kind of like saying,
great.
hey,
Yeah.
Europe needs energy, so let's go bomb Russia and see what happens, right?
Right.
That's going to, as long as we don't produce it ourselves, we'll be fine.
Right. Yeah.
We can't help out the Ukrainians. We don't, no
Right.
way. So when you think about that issue, you were saying on the way down here that in every bad thing, there's always can be found a positive. One of the CDL, when that came out, we have been begging people at Westcom, like, please, we need a couple more CDL drivers. We'll give you $2 an hour more.
So they all ran down there and got them.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go to school. Yeah.
Whether you want to get your CDL or not, if you're on the fence, boy, in the next 30 days, a regulation is going to change. I think we had 12 people go down and get their CDL.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah.
hey, thanks, Biden. That worked out. I don't know who made the rule, but,
Yeah.
just like we can blame the oil executives
Yeah,
for the
just
gas
like
pump.
me, I'll probably never use it, but I was like, I'm going to get it because what if I do want my CDL? you know?
Yeah, that was a very smart move. So, COVID, trucking issues, shipping issues, you feel like you're recovering with your clients. How is it with your employees? Are they recovering? How are they doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're definitely, there was a thing like during COVID, I'm sure you guys seen it too, is like everybody in their life, in every part of their life, it was just negativity. And it just was just kind of this thing that just hovered. Like you could just see it with everybody, the government, the work, the COVID, the shots, the test. I mean, everything was just so negative, But yeah, you definitely can see the uptick in employees and they're excited and they kind of see all what's happening and so yeah, it's a nice time.
It is a great time.
Yeah.
And it
it's
is really
awesome.
for the employees too, right? Because they, just like we have some value proposition that we now get to go sell to the producers or whatever your client is, because I think we'll get into it, but I think you do more than just oil. The employees that we work with also have some value proposition in selling they can do to their boss.
Right.
And we have to pay attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a great time to be an employee.
It is a good time to be an employee. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you guys work some overtime, or are you 40 hours consistent schedules, or is it random?
So in Gillette, 50 is the 40.
Oh,
mean,
you
it's
come
just-
from one of those weird places.
Yeah, one of them weird oil places where people work. It's funny. They take their showers in the afternoon and not in the morning, or in the evening.
Yeah, that's
know?
wrong.
Yeah,
In most
it's
places
crazy.
in the world.
Because they actually get dirty.
Oh, okay.
So
How do you keep your office clean with 30 people around?
well, we have rugs and
Okay, all
people with mops and things like
Yeah,
that.
following around, no doubt.
Yeah,
because
right,
you can't
yeah.
slip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So
The 50 is the 40 in Gillette.
yeah, the 50 is the
That's normal.
40. We've always tried to run. I always say a job heavy and a man short. So that because there's always your guys who want overtime. And so we always just try to run 50s, and there's always a little overtime available for those who want it. That's our general operating procedure,
I
So,
like it. I actually was involved in a very hefty discussion one time with a painter out of Duluth, Minnesota. And if you
painters
know-
have a tough job.
Well, and if you know anything about Duluth, Minnesota, you know that you can't paint for 6 months out of the year because it's
The
30.
humidity. Yeah.
Well, it's got to be 50 degrees or warmer, and that really only happens 2 months, but sometimes we get lucky and we have 6 months worth of painting. And this individual had hired a consultant to come in, and the first thing he told him is, you're paying too much in overtime. So he sat his guys down and he said, no one is allowed to work more than 40 hours a week. And a couple of those employees called me up. They're like, you got to come visit with my dad. He's got his head in the clouds. He doesn't get it. So anyways, we had to visit about how, certain industries and in certain places, overtime, you just got to price it into your business. And I
Yeah.
would say Gillette must be one of those areas. Oil industry must be one of those areas in our business anyway. And by the way, painting in Duluth, Minnesota, you can only make money 6 months out of the year.
So you
go
got to
ahead
get
and
it done
brace
during that time. Yeah.
And it turns out guys actually really like, there's something weird about those people who put on boots every day. It's not just guys, there's females too. We got an awesome electrician for us down in the Permian. She's a great gal. If you got to put your boots on and you got to go out work in the howling wind, whether it's 50-mile-an-hour dry wind with dust bowls down in the Permian or it's a howling negative 30 degrees in North Dakota, those folks, they don't really care to hang out at home.
They want to work.
Yeah, they're there to work. So while they're got the boots on, give me some hours. And if I'm in the midst of something, please don't tell me it's 3:30 and the bell rang and I need to go home. That was
like,
in
what?
high school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what am I going to do? Yeah.
Yeah. So we experience the same
It's
thing.
kind of
when
a
you're trying-
culture thing. They just expect 50s, you know?
And you can either battle it or just price it in and embrace it. You also do some weird things I've seen on social media too, because, I know you love meat. And what are you doing? Like feeding people ribs? Like you're elevating the standard. And some of us ain't appreciating it, Reilly.
Oh, dude, everyone loves meat, man. You slap a bunch of ribeyes on the table and just it's grins all around, I mean.
But what do you serve with it? Yeah, I mean, do you make them take a shower before they're allowed to come eat the steak?
Oh, no. A lot of time, we'll just pull them out and slap them down. My potato salad, you could throw that on there. But it's all about the meat, you know?
Do they use the welding machine to actually heat up the steak?
Dude, it's actually funny because we're kind of hillbillies in Wyoming. And
I went to guest.
And we don't have a big fancy office like you guys do, with this big cafeteria.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we'll get forklifts with sheets of steel on them. That's the table.
Oh.
We'll just kind of impromptu. All of a sudden we got this little eating area,
Yeah, eating off a forklift.
Yeah. And everybody uses their little stabber knives and eats, And so, no, it's cool. Yeah.
No doubt there's napkins at least.
Mm-hmm. Hey, nothing will motivate people like food. It just,
It's
I'm into that. Yeah.
And in all seriousness, it is the coolest time to actually get on the same level with your guys and actually hear what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I like to walk around and touch in and help out where I can. But so often I feel like I'm interrupting them.
You need context.
Right.
Or a place to get in. Yeah.
Exactly. You sit down and you're both eating together. You're not interrupting each other.
Yeah.
Although if the meat is good enough, please don't interrupt me. If you ever do invite me over to your shop and you put one of those.
If my mouth is full.
Yeah. Please leave me alone.
Right, exactly. I need to savor this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What is Gillette beyond the oil field work that Red River is doing? And you're doing some of this SWD work, or we shouldn't call it that, saltwater treatment work. What else are you guys working with? What other industries?
So our strategy right now is just to kind of book out our year, which is what we're doing. And then we're working on some biogas stuff. I'm going to look at solar, but I don't think there's a lot for us with pressure vessels. But biogas, and I don't even know like the right like general term, but I've just been using the term ESG. Like I just think this whole ESG thing presents a lot of opportunity for all of us, because it's not just the oil industry. It's a bunch of them, right? And it inherently needs pressure vessels, and in your case, it needs electrical. And so I think there's going to be a lot of developments, whether it's nitrogen, hydrogen. There's a bunch of things, like we're working on a deal right now where they're turning cow manure into biogas,
Really?
And yeah.
I thought I read something recently that we're not going to be allowed to have cows anymore.
Well, I think they're just going to make them wear these deals around on their hind ends to catch everything, and then we'll all be fine,
Okay, yeah.
Just like everything else.
I'm just glad to know there's a solution.
Oh yeah,
no,
there's a solution for everything, and the nice thing is it's always expensive.
Yeah.
The government likes it to be as inefficient as inexpensive as possible, So that's why we got to carry around these 1,000-pound DPF filters on our pickups that lowers the mileage,
Right.
So that it just comes out a little cleaner,
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Usually does, yeah.
So you're working into some other industries using that terrible word of ESG, which, believe this or not, we actually adopted an ESG policy last night. Like,
really?
Yeah, we decided, kind of like Chris Wright with Liberty Oilfield Services, how he decided, like, let's make this a positive. Like, let's highlight what we do about ESG. As we went on this journey, Reilly, it was shocking. Turns out all 150, 180 employees like to hunt, fish, care about the environment. It was a really weird. I was under the impression nobody cares about this because we're one of those big bad oil people.
Yeah.
But it turns out everyone on our team either eats meat or eats plants, both of which come, have a
up through the ground.
Yeah.
Out of the dirt.
Out of the dirt. And so they had this weird thing that they'd actually like to keep it going. I guess they want to keep living.
Yeah, it's strange.
Really weird. And then even on a social sense, we came up with this comment. One of the board members said, let's use equality of opportunity rather than equality of race, gender, and everything else. And I was like, whoa. So we're actually going to promote people and hire people based on giving them all an equal opportunity, and whoever shines is going to get promoted? Like,
it's a novel idea.
Well, because the Supreme Court justice that is getting nominated right now, she doesn't know how to define a woman. She said last night she's not a biologist. So I thought that was the normal, and that's how we're supposed to promote. But this crazy guy on our board, I don't know who invited him, he wanted this equality of opportunity saying. And so we adopted that. And then we got into talking about social and how we want to, promote the underprivileged folks and that kind of stuff. So we did a little statistic, and I think John was like 35% of our workforce is Mexican minority. And I was like, whoa. So we actually do that. We should probably brag about that, do some solar work. And by the time we were done, we're like, boy, we might be setting ourselves up.
We got this whipped.
Yeah, we got this whipped. So we're kind of excited just to say, hey, turns out we didn't have much work to do. I feel bad for the companies who haven't been, right? Like, you guys burn a lot of fuel at Red River. And so all you have to do is report how much fuel you do, and then report on how much you do next year and how much better you are. Because I bet you kind of have an interest in saving a little bit of money. So big deal, right?
Possibly,
like, you don't intentionally just, maybe you do,
right?
Body irritation sometimes.
Inefficiency. I mean, I won't lie. There's times I grin when I fill up my pickup.
Oh, are you kidding me right now? Especially if the pump, have you seen those little stickers some people are putting on them?
Yeah.
I did this.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
It's very good. And that's kind of goes back to the comment about our fuel being over budget by $400,000 this year. I don't know who socially thinks that we're excited to be way overpaying for things, but it turns out it doesn't matter which side of this coin you're on. You want to do the right thing.
You do, yeah. I mean, everybody's interested in efficiency and making things better, and and sustainable business practices. And like you said, with the hunting and fishing, like nobody wants our wildlife to be gone.
Well,
I mean,
aren't you out on the volunteer fire department fighting wildfires? How many did you fight last year?
35 fires last year, yeah.
35 fires. So no doubt that's probably kind of fun to do, and you feel like a real man because you do it overnight.
Oh, it's a blast. I love it. But you also see, what's going on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's the missing piece out in society is that we, especially in the oil industry, in the blue collar industry, the people who are putting their boots on, it's really easy for them to, have you ever noticed how quickly they can put on their boots? You know why that is, right? Because when they're out hunting, fishing, they're in snow, they're in muck, they got to put their waders on, like it's just normal. Rip, on they go, right?
Yep.
So the folks who are usually on Capitol Hill or wherever they are complaining about whatever the current mantra is, they don't really even know how to put on boots.
No, they wear penny loafers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever been?
I don't know if they know how to lace like boots. I mean, I don't have to lace cowboy boots, but
Is that the norm in Wyoming? Everyone does cowboy boots. Is that like one of the things you watch for when they come in for an interview?
Pretty much. Yeah.
So if our audience wants to know how to get a job at Red River, start with the cowboy boots.
Start with the cowboy boots and the firm handshake.
Firm handshake.
Yeah, if you come in there with just this mushy, feminine grip,
Not
we're
going to
just
cut
not
it.
real impressed. Yeah.
Okay.
No, and like if you walk in with like a bag of kale chips or something,
Not going to
I
cut
don't
it.
think you fit our core values, buddy.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, we're all about, do whatever you want, but there's got to be some core values at the end of the day,
Well, culturally, you just might not fit in if you're trying to walk around in the shop in your penny loafers and your feet might get burnt and all those kinds of things might happen too, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because I noticed you this morning backed in at our office, which I appreciated, and you were talking about how, whatever, you can kind of, you don't read signs apparently, but you noticed, which was kind of a wrong thing to do because I thought, you're always supposed to read signs and just do whatever the sign says.
Yeah. Right.
But
yeah.
you actually did what looked normal and backed in. And so we were making the comment. That's one thing that we often comment about after an interviewee leaves the office. Like, did anyone see, did they back in or did they pull in?
You're
Because
just going to see how they conduct themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're allowed to do that, Reilly, nowadays. I think technically your attorney or whoever do they have attorneys in Wyoming?
I think I've heard they might.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you ever meet one, you might want to ask them like, hey, can I interview based on footwear? And they might tell you.
It's discrimination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's just one of those things you make.
So it comes back to core values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hire and fire based on core values.
Yeah.
What are yours?
Tribal, ain't scared, and driven.
Driven.
Yeah.
And ain't scared.
So it's so funny how that all works out because it's just the whole thing of like, you start out, you want to have core values because you need some way to tie your culture together and express it and measure it and define it, Well, the way we've brought it out over the years has changed because like the last thing we wanted to do was be these big corporate companies where like you see the core values when you walk in the door and you're like, oh yeah, I'll bet nobody's read that in 10 years, no one knows what they are. So you're always trying to make it as real as possible, and we don't post them anywhere. They're not anywhere except for on our pieces of paper that we grade by, and we, it's got all these bullet points under. So it's kind of a game of putting them in our language. And so we don't actually use those terms. That's what they are. But what we use in our everyday business is no wimps, no jerks, no slackers, because that's just more of how we think,
And like the
Quit
way
being a jerk, dude. Like that's how we talk, So that's what's real.
So if I walk through your shop, I might hear somebody be that insensitive.
Oh, terribly. We're terribly insensitive. Yeah. It's bad.
And yet you still have a business in 2022.
Yeah, it's shocking. It turns out it's really weird that people want actually honesty and open communication,
Sure.
And you would never think. I mean,
No, not if you went to college and came out of college.
right, yeah. No, it turns out they just like plain speech, like most of us,
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Don't do this weird dance around funny word business. Like, it's nice. to
So
just
an
have
example
clear
of
communication.
where you'd need that, like, don't be a jerk, is I was using my welder and I was minding my own business and you unplugged it. Like, don't be a jerk.
Don't
Is that
come
how
by
you
and
use
crank
that?
up my heat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's and it's like anything. The way we started with our core values was when we first started the business, we had like, maybe 5 to 10 guys, and you got to start somewhere of drawing it out, And so what we did is we looked at each guy and we talked about each guy and we said, why is he here? Like, why do we like this guy? And we just started writing down the traits, the things that, maybe that one dude was always there half hour early, or there was all the, little things that you like about people and important things that you wanted to just grow and cultivate in your business long term. And that's how it started. We started with just a list of these things that we thought were important, maybe one guy was just real blunt and open and honest. And we're like, we love that because you don't have to wonder, and the guy who wasn't afraid to tell the boss when he thought he was wrong. We love that, and so then over the years, we've just kind of crafted how that is visualized, and we've got rid of things and pinned things down and put them in better words. And so our core values are more just like, it's like a bullet pointed list. And then when we hire somebody, I usually interview everybody that gets hired before anybody else meets them. And I evaluate them just purely on core values of who are you? What are you about? Where'd you come from? What are you? Nothing to do with skills and abilities. It's just, how do you fit,
Which, especially in today's world, seems way more important than skill set. Is who are you? What's your story? Why are you here? Why'd you call me?
Yeah, and like I don't want to undervalue the skills because the skills are incredibly important. They play a massive role in our society, but the skills can be learned. But it's really hard to change who somebody is. You know what I mean? And so...
Well, who they are has been going on for the last 20 years.
Yep.
The skill set normally was just learned in the last year or two.
Yep.
And we can cultivate that, even change it if necessary.
Yep.
But changing who they are, no, that's a pretty tough deal.
That's tough, yeah. So finding the right fits,
Is that hard for you guys right now, finding good people? Qualified people that fit the culture, or what's that like?
It's funny because we thought that for the last 5 years, you hear everybody complaining about not being able to get guys, and we didn't really have that issue. But I would say that now it's finally coming home for us too. Like we used to always have probably 10 guys that would come to work if we called them. They were kind of on the list,
Sure.
And now it's down to like 2 or 3, and it's
down to 2
it's
or
getting
3,
tougher.
and you're seeing a market that's. Are you pretty optimistic right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You're trying to fill this year.
This year's going to be a challenge to keep the revenue below where we want it to be. That's going to be the hardest point, is saying no. And I've been having the same conversations you were, where it's like, I told one customer the other day, it's like we're in a game of who do we want to let tie up our capacity for the year? I mean, maybe them are the wrong terms to use, but you want to be smart about who you're tying up your capacity with, because is it going to be the right thing for the long term,
Yeah, and I think that bluntness is exactly what our clients appreciate.
I think they do.
Need to hear.
Yeah.
They're not any different than the employee that you're just talking about, right?
Right.
They actually appreciate knowing what the expectation is and helps them make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think long term, Red River has how many guys now?
We're sitting 25-ish.
25-ish?
Yeah.
And 25 of the hardest working.
That's down from 70 in 2019.
Really? So what?
It was the craziest thing when that COVID stuff hit. Yeah, it was wild.
And wasn't it immediate?
It was immediate. We got to the end of 2019 and we were pumped because we had our whole year booked. We're like, 2020 was booked. We're like, this is going to be so awesome. We had all these plans, and we're like, we're going to go out and carve out another 2 or 3 million of just awesome work, like something to just kind of toss things up and make it enjoyable. And I think like 90% of it evaporated in the course of like 4 weeks. Like it was just call after call, cancel. Yeah, it's wild.
It was a good thing you had a core value of you ain't scared.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Were you
Big
scared?
time. Dude, I was scared. I mean, there's times, but no, it was rough. for a while there.
So do you envision going back up to 70, or is the vision more like whatever happens as long as we're having fun and we're following this core value business? Or
Our thing is more controlled growth. We want to have very controlled growth. And, I really didn't like it at 70 because I felt like we lost touch with our employees. There was actually people working that I didn't know, and I didn't like that. I'm just, I know the game for everybody is growth, but for me, I want to enjoy my job. I'm going to work till I'm 65 or maybe for longer, and so are these people, and I want it to be an awesome place to work, and if you lose connection, I just can't buy into it. And unless we figure out a way to, I know it can be done, but unless we figure out a way to really grow that where the leaders down to the leaders and maintain that connection on a scalable and be able to scale it. But it's not that appealing to me. I used to think the growth thing was what it was all about, but I'm not so gung-ho on it anymore, It's more about the quality.
Yeah, don't grow for growth's sake just because someone in some book said you should grow.
No, it's just overrated. It's expensive. You don't get the return that you thought you were, and you can just enjoy a lot more if you focus on a profit because you can give that to your employees. It makes their lives better, and focus on those relationships with the employees and really make it a stinking family, like for real,
Yeah, and if you do that, growth probably will come.
It comes inherently. It's harder to not grow than it is to grow.
Right.
Way harder, if you ask me. It's one of the toughest things for me. This partly is my nature, but it is one of the toughest things for me to say no. It's so hard. When a client wants you, that's tough.
Well, it's like a turning point in a business, right? Mm-hmm. That you work all these hours and blood, sweat, and tears, and you're going out meeting clients, and that first sell is so exciting. You get that little, what do they call that thing? Whatever it goes in
the
your
little
brain.
Dopamine deal?
Yeah, dopamine deal thing that people do drugs for. You get that, and then you go do another one, and it's all this excitement, and pretty soon you got people wanting to come work there because it's exciting. So you can get caught up in that. But as soon as your business can become about the excitement within rather than the growth, but it's just an exciting place to be because people are communicating with each other frankly, they're valuing each other, they're appreciating one another, then that growth happens organically, and it's much more fun to participate in.
Yeah.
I'm only taking this client because I got a team of people behind me pushing to take this client because they want their work. I'm not taking this client because I want.
Way more sustainable growth. It's way more coherent and reasonable, and
Yeah, we dealt with much of the same thing during COVID, and we're having actually a conversation last night. One of the board members asked me, so you're going to constrain growth at what cost? It was an interesting thing to ponder.
That's an interesting question, yeah.
I don't know, but I can promise you, just like the oil companies ain't going back and going tenfold, we're not going back and going tenfold.
Yep.
It's got to be
discipline.
Very disciplined. Yep. Man, my nature is such that it's hard not to grab every opportunity.
Dude, it's so hard. Yeah.
But
it is.
Good thing for a team of people.
Yeah, it's great for a team of people, yep.
Especially those that will hold you accountable to it and yank your hair that, hey,
and it wasn't all bad. I mean, obviously, we had a lot of fun in the growth years. We were doubling our revenue for quite a few years, and there was some fun things. I mean, I remember one time EOG came to us, and they had this completely new design of their facilities that they wanted to do, and it was like a modular design, and this job was massive. For us, it was. Mm-hmm. It was like, I don't remember the numbers, but I think that work alone was going to add another third or a double to our revenue, or like a half again type of deal, right? And I remember we had this late night war council. We call them war councils when it's like the chips are down, we got to figure this out, Mm-hmm. And it was late. It was like 10 o'clock, and we pulled the whole crew. We pulled all the leads in and management and everybody, and we had them all in this room. And everybody in that room said, "No, we can't do this. It's not possible. It's too big for us. We can't do it." And I couldn't let it go. I was like, "There's just no. This is like the opportunity. We have to have it. This is in 2018, and So what I ended up doing, because I was kind of crushed. Like,
Thanks a lot, team.
yeah, I was like, but I couldn't let it go. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go commit to this work. And all I'm asking for every one of you guys is that we'll try. If you think we can't do it, that's fine. But promise me that you will try. And I made them all promise that they would try the best they could. And when we first started, they were like these modules. In the beginning, we did one in like a week. And within a month, we were doing 5 in a week. Like it was
5 times.
Yeah, it was so legit. And we just freaking slaughtered it. Like they killed it. And so that's why I always tell them now is I'm like, I believe in you guys more than you believe in yourself. Don't give me that crap. We can do this,
Yeah.
you know? So there was a lot of cool stuff like that, but it was fun. But
So if you have to sum up your business experience in the last 10, 15 years, however long it's been for you, what is the coolest part about Red River and what you get to do there?
oh, I think it's the people. I mean, it's all about the people. Like that's what we started. My thought from the very beginning has always been that I just want to work somewhere where I want to work with the people that I want to work with and enjoy it, you know? And I can't think of a better industry to be part of. It's so fun to be part of the oil industry and feel like you're, like you always say, energizing America, you know, like, I don't know if I used the right word.
Yeah,
but
you did.
Yeah, it's like we're a key role here. Everybody here, you are turning the lights on in America, dudes. Like this is real stuff. And
Yeah,
that's cool to be part of that.
This isn't like making somebody's life just a little bit better. This is actually impacting their
This
ability
isn't
to live.
disposable income. This is like the lifeblood of America, and these dudes are making it tick. And I love that camaraderie. That's like the favorite thing of, you know, middle of the night, we're bringing the plant back online or whatever it is. Like them are the moments that are the best for me.
That's awesome.
That I just makes it all worth it, you know.
We're going to get you back in here and we're going to talk just about people because I can tell it's inherent. That's what I think everyone I visit with in the industry and the people recognize companies that are aware of this and they want to do business with it. So I think we want to hear more exactly about people. So we got to have another conversation and talk about that.
It's my favorite topic. I love people.
Awesome. Well, we'll get back together again. Thanks for coming.
Sounds good. You bet. Thank you.